What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Wrestling with Johners. This is episode 81, and this is a special review episode. We're going to be covering last night's NXT TakeOver WarGames from Chicago, featured live on the WWE Network, and I can't wait to cover all them fantastic matches with my special guest host with me today on the line. But before, as I like to with every single episode, go straight into my social media plugs so you know where to find me, where you can say hi and get in touch. On Twitter, of course, we are at @withjohners_pod. That's Twitter. At @withjohners_pod. On Instagram, you can find us, just simply type in Wrestling with Johners, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're doing a lot of work on our YouTube channel of late, so a lot of live interviews up there, some exclusive content from shows I've been to over the last few years. Of course, if you enjoy listening to this podcast, please don't forget to hit subscribe, and you'll be notified every time a new episode drops. You can find the Wrestling with Johners podcast on all popular podcast platforms, including Apple, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, Anchor, and YouTube, of course. So please spread the word. Give us a follow on all of our social media pages, and don't forget to subscribe to our podcast and YouTube channels today, and help to get even more people listening to the best kept secret in wrestling podcast at the moment, the Wrestling with Johners podcast. So over to our special guest host. So he's another podcaster. We've had a lot of podcasters on the Wrestling with Johners podcast of late, and I've got Liam Warr on the line. And Liam, you're from the 5 Stars in the Tokyo Dome podcast. So how you doing, Liam? Good afternoon.
I am splendid. Thank you very much. How you doing?
Fantastic. Yeah, very good. Great to have you on board. Now, I mentioned your podcast there, and we spoke a little bit off air. You've dropped about 5 episodes. You just recorded the 6th one, and it focuses on 5-star matches in particular. So 5 stars in the Tokyo Dome podcast. Tell us a little bit about the podcast, the concept, how you came up with it, how long you've been doing it for. Give us a little bit of a shout out about your podcast you're doing, buddy.
Well, I suppose 5 stars in the Tokyo Dome. Everybody knows about meme. Everybody knows about meme. So that's what we drew onto. Yeah, so we, episode by episode, we take a match from Wrestling Observers, or Dave Meltzer if you prefer, list of 5-star matches, which obviously goes back to 1974 or whatever. Can't remember off the top of my head.
It's been a while. He's been doing it for many years, 40 plus years. But
I think the first one was 83. Actually, I can't remember. Okay. But yeah, there's about 100 of them. So we've got content for days, but it's just recording the content. So we fall into a monthly schedule, and we nominate each episode, or we nominate matches on an episode by episode basis. So there's 3 of us. There's myself, Liam. There's Ant. There's Paul. And we've all got sort of different backgrounds of wrestling tastes. Paul is largely New Japan. I was WWE for the longest time. We all obviously started with WWE when we were younger, because obviously. Yeah. But then as you grow up and mature, like I started going to Progress shows in London and just started generally just taking an interest in independent wrestling itself. Ant and Paul the same. Started coming to a couple Progress shows himself, and we went to a few Rev Pro shows around sort of a region, because we're sort of based Bournemouth way, Southampton general area, at the time at least. We've just released our episode on CM Punk versus John Cena, which, I mean, everybody knows that match.
One of my favourite matches of all time.
Yeah, no, I thought it was for me as well, but I don't know.
Not just because the match was good, but because of the build-up, that epic promo, the pipe bomb from, and then what happened afterwards when he kind of kissed Vince McMahon with a little kiss over the barriers. He hopped into the crowd, and the story surrounding. But the match itself was absolutely fantastic, and the crowd. It was in Chicago as well, which is the same destination as where TakeOver was recorded last night. So
same as well.
It was as well. It was. But Punk vs. Cena, that's your most recent episode. Tell us about some of your other 5-star matches that you've covered on your podcast, then, Liam.
So far we've covered, the first episode was Cody versus Dustin, All Elite Wrestling Double or Nothing. I think that's one of my favourite matches so far of the podcast.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, no, that's a complete lie, because the second episode is we covered Will Ospreay versus Shingo Takagi.
Yeah.
The Best of a Super Juniors final. That is insane, that match.
That was from this summer, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was earlier this year. Will Ospreay's just having the most incredible year ever. it's insane what he's been doing. He's done literally every tournament under the sun in New Japan, and I mean, with all due respect to him, he is a bit of an idiot, obviously, as proven by social media on a number of occasions.
But not as much as Seth Rollins, but
oh no, Seth Rollins is definitely worse. No, yeah.
But I mean, Will Ospreay is kind of he's mixing up with the heavyweights now as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's an absolutely phenomenal talent, and it's so weird to see that little scrawny kid from Essex that used to do backyard and just absolutely killing it all over the world at the moment. It's amazing to see. So yeah, Will Ospreay and Shingo was our second match. Third, we did Razor Ramon versus Shawn Michaels, WrestleMania 10 ladder match. That's a really fun match. Yeah. For episode 4. Oh, another really, well, to be fair, I'm going to say another really good one for everyone because they're all fantastic.
They're all 5-star matches.
Yeah. But episode 4 was Tomohiro Ishii versus Kazuchika Okada from a G1 Climax in 2016. That was quite hard. That was, oh man, my chest caved in just watching it, I think. But yeah, no, go check it out. All our socials are at 5 Stars in the Dome. We're available on everywhere, all good major podcast networks, Apple, Spotify, Google, TuneIn, Stitcher, everywhere, all the good stuff. And yeah, we're starting a journey. We're taking a slow jaunt through the annals of history, but yeah, month to month, new episode, and yeah.
You've got over 100 5-star matches to potentially cover. So any plans to make it twice a month or potentially weekly? I mean, what's your kind of long-term plans with your podcast? You want to make it more frequent, or are you happy with what you're doing with the monthly episodes currently?
We would love to do it more frequently. However, the time in our schedules just can't really allow it. Really, like as much, I would love to do sort of a weekly news, current event sort of podcast, but everything to do with work and just maintaining it and running, like, it's amazing how much actually goes into running a podcast itself. Like, certainly for you when you're doing a week to week thing. So I sit there and bitch and moan about getting an episode out in a month, but really it's just like, oh well, really.
But I mean, we spoke a bit off air, and I said that my style of podcasting is a little bit more kind of guerrilla podcasting, kind of record it and smash it out as quickly as I can with as few edits as I can. But you like to take time. You're into your kind of graphic design. You really take a lot of time into your social media as well. So there's a lot of love, care, and attention there put into every single episode.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it's a little pet project for me, really, because by trade I'm a designer. I work in social media and publishing, and there are a lot of sort of restrictions and stuff by nature of work. Like, everywhere is hamstrung by certain things, so it's nice to be able to pick this up in my spare time and just pay attention to it and care about it and design things. And like, some things might be better than others, but also I've got to consider that I'm not spending a great deal amount of time on a lot of these things. A lot of the cases are just like, I'm trying to rush something out just for the sake of like doing a quote graphic, just to sort of push the links for the episode itself. So yeah, I just think there's so much value in social media content now in terms of trying to push and drive your podcast, as it were, in this instance, and just getting it heard. So that's why I've joined you today, John.
There we go. Well, I really appreciate you kind of jumping on board and helping us out with this podcast. And I mean, you've just got done watching TakeOver WarGames from last night. I watched it the early hours this morning. I think we'll agree, without going into too much detail, it was definitely a corker of a show, definitely a thumbs up show. And absolutely. I mean, NXT, they always deliver with their takeovers. I think this is their 27th now, and they've never done a bad one. Now, unfortunately, we can't say that about your typical WWE pay-per-view, although tonight's Survivor Series, it does have a large element of NXT, so I'm hoping that the match quality will be quite a bit better, having them fresh faces on a big pay-per-view. But last night's show was just stellar. It was top-notch, and potentially 1 or 2 5-star matches in there.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, it must be said, I was really, really concerned about how this takeover was going to play out following NXT's migration to TV, and I don't think we really know what the power dynamic is with running a takeover show or NXT in general, because obviously everybody's concerned with, if Vince gets his hands on it, he's going to ruin it and all that. Like, That's what I was concerned about, because takeovers are always excellent, aren't they? Like I don't think I've ever watched a bad takeover.
Never.
And I don't think I've ever watched a pay-per-view following a takeover that's ever been better than the takeover.
True.
Like, it's weird that there's such a strong discernible divide in brand quality, if you will. Yeah. If we're gonna talk about brand supremacy in that, it's just everything about NXT is so much better than SmackDown and Raw at the moment, and has been for years. And
it'll be interesting to see how the booking goes tonight and how the matches go, but maybe we'll talk about some of the matches as we go through the card from last night. So like I say, you've just got done watching TakeOver WarGames, so it's going to be fresh in your mind, but there was a 30-minute pre-show before the main show kicked off last night. Now there was one match. Now usually the pre-show matches are normally recorded and shown on the Wednesday to build kind of their episode, but now that NXT is live every single week, the pre-show match was shown live as well, so it went straight into a pre-show match, and I think it was announced a day or so before, maybe yesterday morning, that Isaiah Swerve Scott was going up against Angel Garza, two fantastic high caliber wrestlers that's really making a name for themselves within NXT. Been on a lot of recent NXT episodes. And Angel Garza actually won the match after 12 minutes with his, I think it was called a wing clipper finisher. So Isaiah Swerve Scott suffering a loss there, but they definitely got big kind of plans for both of these two wrestlers. It's great for them to be featured on, in front of such a big crowd on a pre-show for last night's takeover. There's also a segment, a bit of an angle that took place on last night's pre-show as well, where a mystery attacker essentially took Mia Yim out of the WarGames match. Now, Mia Yim kind of had a tremendous women's ladder match on last week's takeover when she fought Io Shirai to gain the kind of the woman advantage in the women's WarGames match, with the successful woman grabbing the briefcase, giving their respective team the person advantage going into the WarGames matches. And she was pretty beat up after that match, although she has been seen on some of the run-ins this week on Raw and SmackDown. So we thought that she looked okay and she was going to be okay for tonight's match, but she was attacked by a mystery assailant. We don't know who that person is as the pre-show unfolded, but it may become apparent as the evening kind of unfolds. So Mia Yim essentially taken out of the match, and as they're loading Mia Yim into the back of the ambulance, Rhea Ripley looks over. There's Dakota Kai there, and Rhea Ripley rather reluctantly tells Dakota that she's now part of her WarGames team. And of course, Dakota was kind of she was unceremoniously booted from the team when she thought she'd done enough to be part of the WarGames team a few weeks ago on NXT. So she'd been carrying a little bit of a grudge, but this was her opportunity to become part of WarGames history. So the first match, as a matter of fact, Liam, was the women's WarGames match. We kind of had an inkling that the show was going to be bookended with the WarGames matches, and the women's match kicked things off. So going into the match, kind of what was your expectations and any thoughts, any feelings about the people involved or about the match in general?
With this, the amalgamation of everybody in there, the problem with gimmick pay-per-views like WarGames is I don't like it, and I think this is common for everybody. I don't like it when it just feels like, oh, we've got WarGames around the corner, so let's throw everybody together. And the team of Baszler, Belair, who was it? Baszler, Belair,
Shirai and Kaylee Ray.
Yeah, it just felt like, what?
Did feel a bit random to start off with.
Yeah. It worked, and it was great.
Oh, yeah.
But I was just like, it just feels like everything they've done with Shayna and the Four Horsewomen, it just felt, well, obviously they couldn't do that because of Ronda, but I thought that sort of spot was set for Jessamine Duke and
Marina Shafir. Yeah.
Marina Shafir, Roddy's girlfriend. It just, I mean, they'll still have that opportunity, of course, but yeah, going into it, I just felt like, is this warranted for WarGames? Sure. I mean, like I said, it was awesome, but yeah, I just don't like Franken teams, really.
Yeah,
Franken teams really upset me sometimes.
It did feel a little bit kind of thrown together to start off with, but when you kind of looked at the individuals on paper, you could certainly see why they were included. I mean, quality-wise, I think NXT is second to none. Probably has the best women's roster in the world at the moment, and the four people that were included on Shayna's team certainly are definitely up there without a doubt. But let's go into some of the kind of happenings of the opening match. And so To start with, each of the wrestlers got their own individual entrances before the match started. Io Shirai got a fantastic pop as she entered, and so did Shayna Baszler. So those are the two biggest pops from the 8 people that came out and made their entrance for the beginning of this match. All the women then get locked into their respective shark cages, with the exception of the 2 wrestlers that are going to be starting the match. That turned out to be Io Shirai and kind of once friends, now bitter enemy Candice LeRae, of course. I remember that it was Team Baszler who had the advantage going into this match after Shirai won that historic ladder match that took place on last week's NXT. Shirai in this match, she impressed a lot quite early on. She hit 2 Tiger Fake kicks, 619s, of course, a pair of running double knees, an impressive piece of rope work as well, where she kind of stepped from one ring to another before hitting a missile drop kick.
That was really cool.
That was really good, sending Candice LeRae down to the canvas. So that was a bit of an oh my god moment. Bianca Belair is the next person of Team Baszler to enter. She delivers an excellent running shooter star press and 2 consecutive power bombs to Candice LeRae before sending LeRae crashing into the side of the cage. Rhea Ripley is out next for her team, immediately going for the weapons under the ring, including trash cans, kendo sticks, steel chairs, with Bianca Belair being the first to get slammed through one of the rubbish bins, the trash cans for her troubles.
They struggled themselves on commentary saying that a lot of the last time.
I feel their pain. Kaylee Ray is out next, who immediately retrieves a couple of chairs from underneath the ring. Kaylee Ray also teases that she's going to get a couple of tables, but like a true heel decides against it to the loud boos of the fans. Then we have a Tower of Doom spot with everybody landing horribly onto a stack of chairs down below. But Belair follows this with a big splash down onto the wrestlers down below. Then it's Dakota Kai's turn to enter the match, but instead of entering the match, she turns back towards the shark cage, where she attacks her Team Kick stablemate and best friend Tegan Nox with a running kick, and then she turns her attention to Tegan Nox's surgically repaired left knee, ripping away at Tegan's knee brace before repeatedly smashing Tegan's leg into the cage door. That looked pretty painful, and even with the knee brace there, before she ripped it off, it looked like proper contact was being made there. So hopefully that knee brace was doing the job.
I don't think Tegan Nox's knees are absolutely buggered anyway, aren't they? So I don't think it mattered how hard or soft you hit it, it was going to hurt.
But that certainly looked like it hurt regardless. Even William Regal got a shove for his troubles. And there you have it. It's the heel turn that we all kind of expected, but the execution was perfect. All stemming from when Dakota was left off the War Games team several weeks ago by Ripley, planting the seed for how she'd find her way back into the War Games team and attack it. She was obviously the attacker of Mia Yim to get her out of the side on the pre-show, and then turning her back on her best friend and fellow teammates during the match itself. So needless to say, Dakota was sent back. She will not be part of this match. Shayna is out next with a clear 4-on-2 advantage, as officials and medical staff tend to Tegan Nox as the match beyond begins. This is where Shayna pulls out a set of handcuffs, but is only able to attach one end of the handcuffs to the wrist of Rhea Ripley. With the odds stacked firmly against Rhea Ripley and Candice LeRae, they go on the offense with trash can lids. I said it right. And whatever they can get their hands on. And in one spot, Rhea Ripley has Io Shirai in her inverted cloverleaf from the middle turnbuckle. That looks pretty good. It looks pretty impressive when she normally does it on the canvas, but to have her opponent hanging upside down in the cloverleaf from the turnbuckles just added to the move. Shirai then gets a close near fall from a moonsault. LeRae goes on the offense with stiff kendo stick shots on everybody. And then in one of the spots of the match, Candice delivers a poison rana on Kaylee Ray from the top turnbuckle. That was a hell of a move. A really good move, and Kaylee Ray sold the shit out of that one. Then we have one of the moves of the whole night when we saw Io Shirai deliver another moonsault, this time from the top of the cage, all of 12 feet down onto her opponents down below. That was pretty special.
Did you hear the crowd after that?
Oh man, it was incredible.
Mia chant.
It was incredible. I popped for that one sitting in my armchair at home. Kaylee Ray is then leveled with a trash can shot to the face. That was pretty impressive.
That was sick as well.
And then towards the end of the match, Shayna then locks in a Karafuda clutch on Rhea Ripley, with Ripley managing to escape the hole by attaching the other end of the handcuffs to the wrist of Shayna before Ripley put Shayna through a pair of chairs which were set up in the ring with her rip-tide pump handle bomb, hook in the leg, getting the pinfall win for her team. Well, the match had pretty much everything, Liam, to be honest with you, and all of it more than delivered. I love the heel turn from Dakota and a vicious attack on Tegan Nox. I thought the offense inside the cage was awesome. We had weapons, we had handcuffs, we had moonsaults, and especially that one from the top of the cage. But eventually we had the surprise win for the disadvantaged team of Rhea Ripley and Candice LeRae in this brilliant opener. And Ripley is having a hell of a week, pinning Charlotte Flair on an episode of SmackDown and then getting a win for her team here. But I'd love to know your thoughts on this opening match, the first ever women's War Games match.
Well, firstly, this does incredible things for Rhea Ripley, which I love because she is incredible. And it just makes her look so strong to be able to obviously stack the odds so heavily against her and then, well, pin Shayna Baszler, which not many people have. Who's done it? Io? Or Kairi Sane? Like, not many pins.
You can count on one hand, possibly two fingers,
Yeah, so I'm glad that they're really putting some stock in Rhea Ripley because, like I said, she is fantastic. That was another thing, just going back to the team setup, like Tegan Nox being with Rhea Ripley. That's still been bothering me that they're sort of slightly friends, seeing as I know Rhea obviously didn't intend to break. It was Rhea in Mae Young Classic, wasn't it? Where
yes, that's right, in the quarter final, and that's where she that's the match that Rhea won that she shouldn't have. Yeah. So I feel like there's a dropped ball there in terms of that story, but I mean they obviously had higher issues to deal with in terms of Dakota Kai and that. So so it does amazing things for Rhea. Candice as well. They all looked fantastic. That moonsault from Io was sensational. And like I said, the Mamma Mia chant after it was just really, really made me laugh. Mamma Mia! That's the move that I'm going to take away from this match. That's the move that I'm going to remember from this match.
Yeah, exactly. Rest in peace, Team Kick. Really?
Yes, unfortunately, but it sets up a nice feud. Like I say, and although we saw the heel turn coming a mile off, the story played out well, and it played out over a number of weeks. And I think that certainly Dakota played her part in it fantastically. And it'd be good to see a heel side of her, how she is a heel, how she can explain her actions on this week's NXT, and then of course the matches that we're likely to get between her and former best friends Tegan Nox, of course. But hell of an opener, and I must admit I would have been happy if that would have been closing the show, but to open the show was just as special, to be honest with you, and I think it certainly set a really high benchmark for the rest of the night.
Yeah, no, absolutely, but we'll obviously get to it, but I think there were some, again, higher pressing issues for the men's main event, or men's to be main event, really.
Yeah, definitely. So then we had a shot of Imperium sitting at ringside. I think they were minus Alexander Wolf, but never mind. We're all kind of wondering whether they were going to play a part in any of the matches with them sitting at ringside, but it was just kind of one of the things that NXT and tend to do on takeovers and kind of flash up either current stars or incoming new signees, and in this case it was Imperium. But that kind of led us nicely into our next match, which was a triple threat. Now, this match was originally penciled for this past Wednesday's NXT, but then got bumped up to the TakeOver card, and they announced it as an actual number one contenders match as well. So it featured Killian, Dane, Damien Priest, and Pete Dunne, and the winner of this match would then go on to be the number one contender to the NXT champion, Adam Cole, of course, at this Sunday Survivor Series. So lots kind of on offer here. Some big stakes at hand as well, and these three have kind of had a bit of a feud, kind of weaving and interlocking through various episodes of NXT for the last few weeks. And kind of where was your mind at kind of going into this match with these three opponents, knowing that potentially the winner would go on to face Adam Cole for the championship in possibly the biggest match in their career at Survivor Series this Sunday?
I'm just really happy that Pete Dunne's going to have an NXT Championship match at Survivor Series. I'm really excited about it. Pete Dunne's probably one of my favourite wrestlers in the world at the moment. In terms of the feud itself, it's difficult because with the recent Wednesday Night Wars and lack of time, I do have to make a conscious decision as to watch All Elite or NXT and just catch up on clips in that. So I think there's going to be a lot with this sort of story or match, which I might sort of slip me by, if you know what I mean. But it seems to be like Killian Dane himself, post Sanity, totally reinvented himself just that slid under the radar for me, which is a shame because I love Killian Dane being a fucking mark and calling him by their indie names, and I don't want to do that.
That's all right. That's all right. We all know who you're referring to.
Yeah.
But he's done a great job since. And the thing is, they've treated him the way he should have been treated, as this big monster heel, this big killer. And unfortunately, you barely saw him on SmackDown, let alone had a chance to experience what type of wrestler he was. And I honestly thought, going back a few years ago, that they were going to push him to the moon. I mean, for crying out loud, he was part of a WrestleMania before he even came up onto the main roster. He was in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. Kind of within a few months of actually being with the company. So they saw something in him. But I can only imagine that Vince McMahon saw, how hairy his back was, and said, "I'm not having him anywhere within 50 feet of me." But Triple H obviously he knew kind of how to look after a wrestler like that, and like I say, either end of his main roster career, Triple H has done the right thing by Killian Dane. And I remember seeing Killian Dane in that amazing 6-man ladder match at NXT TakeOver New Orleans, and I was there, and it was a tremendous match to be there live. I was there WrestleMania weekend last year, and that match was just fantastic. And the two big guys, Lars Sullivan, he's dropped off the face of the earth, and Killian Dane, they really delivered. But he made a big believer out of me. And Damien Priest, a bit newer on the scene, formerly Punishment Martinez from Ring of Honor fame. Do you know much about Punishment Martinez or Damien Priest?
I don't know a great deal, to be fair. I know that he was really popular in Ring of Honor, wasn't he? And I think it was something of a shock when he left, if I recall. Well, I suppose actually, no, leaving Ring of Honor isn't a shock anymore.
Not currently, no. But going back to this match, like I said, number one contenders match. Now, amazingly, despite the stat card, this was the match going into it that I was looking forward to the most. Probably for the same reason you were, and that's because of the inclusion of Pete Dunne. A massive Pete Dunne fan this end and your end as well. This match started at a pace with one spot. Killian Dane executed a Michinoku driver, dropping Pete Dunne onto the head of Damien Priest. Now, I'm sure they didn't, but it looked painful. It looked so painful. That was followed by a 2-for-1 move from Killian Dane, dropping both Dunne and Priest with a fall-away slam Samoa drop combo on the outside. Dunne then goes on the offense with the snap suplex to Dane, and then a triangle attempt on Priest before getting a double teamed by both heels with a double powerbomb. This match soon breaks down with all three smashing lumps out of one another before they all fall to the canvas. Priest then gets a close near fall from a choke bomb on Dunne. Priest then drops Pete Dunne down onto one of the announce tables on the outside with his razor's edge crucifix bomb before Killian Dane levels Priest with a running cannonball through the guard railings. Priest himself gets a close near fall with another razor's edge, this time on the bigger Killian Dane, with Dunne breaking up the pinfall attempt. There's a crazy suicide dive from Damien Priest over the top rope onto Dane on the outside, and Dunne comes back with a tremendous moonsault from the middle turnbuckle onto both of his opponents on the outside. Dane then delivers a Vader bomb onto Priest, with Dunne delivering another moonsault to break up the count and getting a 2 count from a bitter end on Killian Dane. Priest almost has this match won with a reckoning on Pete Dunne, with Dane breaking up the pin. The match eventually comes to an end with Dunne. He applies a sleeper hold on Killian Dane, and with Priest laying prone on the canvas, Killian drops Pete Dunne back first onto Priest. Dane then gets bundled to the outside, allowing Pete Dunne to make the cover on Damien Priest for the 1-2-3. And now we have it. It'll be the bruiserweight Pete Dunne who will go face-to-face, one-on-one with the NXT champion at Survivor Series in a featured match on Sunday. So this match had it all. I enjoyed the hell out of it, to be honest with you. It probably wasn't the best match of the night, but it certainly delivered on all fronts as far as I'm concerned, and all three more than delivered. But I'm as chuffed a bit, just like you are, to see Pete Dunne not only win the match, but to then become the number one contender, and he's going to be featured in a championship match on tonight's Survivor Series. So give us your thoughts on the match as a whole, and kind of your thoughts on tonight's match against Adam Cole.
Pete Dunne must fucking love going to Chicago.
Oh, yeah, it's his lucky town.
Yeah, anytime they say, "Oh, Pete, we're going to Chicago again," I'm like, yes.
He had that classic match with Tyler Bate, of course. I'm not sure if that was a 5-star match, but it certainly deserved to be.
Yeah, it was. Actually,
I think it was 4 3/4.
7.5. Yeah, no, I could be wrong. No, that's a shame. I would have liked to do that.
Hey, it's your podcast. You can bump it up to 5 if you want to.
It's all right. Yeah, no. When we start doing Patreon content, it will be 4.75 stars in the Tokyo Dome just to get other episodes out. No, match excellent. Pete Dunne they really handled the ending of that really well for Pete Dunne, because obviously he's a little guy in that match, so he's sort of David against two Goliaths, and then just to be able to snatch that victory after Dane sort of slams him down onto Priest. Damien Priest's name's shit. I hate it. To be that shitty in sort of cocky, because he's not a heel. I don't think he's really a face. He's just a twat, really, and everybody loves him. Just plays into his character. I actually think he might win tonight. I really hope so.
Yeah, well, I think we'll talk about the main event shortly, but after the punishment Adam Cole went through, he's not going to be 100%, and I don't know. We'll talk about kind of where I think that much might go at the end of the episode, but I hope it'll be an amazing moment. Like I say, Chicago is his lucky town, but it'll be an amazing moment if Pete Dunne does pull it off. But we'll talk a bit more about that towards the end of the show. But definitely a thumbs up match, and a brilliant win, a popular win as well for the Bruiserweight. And like I say, it has been in NXT the longest out of the three. And like I say, I think it's a natural progression for Pete Dunne, having been the NXT UK or the WWE United Kingdom champion for so long, and for him to now have that shot at Adam Cole's championship tonight at Survivor Series. But moving on to match 3 of 4 then, Liam. The original bro, Matt Riddle, versus, shall we call him the Prince, Finn Balor? His character is certainly very reminiscent of his New Japan character.
The Prince real Balor, rock and roller.
There we go. But this match actually marks the first match in an NXT ring for Finn Balor in over 3 years. I think commentary said it was close to 4, but I think it's kind of more like over 3 years, with Balor turning heel on Johnny Gargano a month ago, bringing back the darker, more sinister side of Finn Balor that we haven't seen from him since he joined WWE back in 5 years ago. So in his entire run, he's only ever been babyface up until his recent heel turn a few weeks ago. Also leading to the insertion of Matt Riddle into this match, who in my opinion makes a perfect opponent for Finn Balor any day of the week. So this match started at a slower pace, with Balor connecting with a drop kick in the corner, like a John Woo drop kick, and a stiff boot to the face of Riddle. Riddle soon started to show why he's more than a suitable replacement for Johnny Gargano, with a Broton and an ankle lock on Balor. Balor comes back with another John Woo drop kick. Riddle connects with a flash knee strike and a bridge in German for a 2 count. Balor counters a powerbomb attempt from Riddle with a double foot stomp to the chest and then a sling blade. Riddle then delivers a Goldberg-esque spear and a jackhammer, which he called the bro hammer, for a close near fall. So that was excellent. The fans were loving these not so subtle digs at Hall of Famer Goldberg there. And I know Matt Riddle was chomping at the bit for a match with Goldberg somewhere down the line. But I love these when he was kind of ripping off Goldberg's moves. Goldberg. Balor then drops an inverted DDT for another close near fall. Riddle delivers a bro to sleep, but misses a floating bro. And Balor misses his coup de grace, with Riddle attempting to put Balor out with a rear naked chokehold. But the end of the match comes when Balor connects with a devastating 1916 spike DDT, hooking the leg and getting the pinfall over Matt Riddle in this well-paced, hard-hitting and action-packed match. So I love this one as well. Seems to be the common theme of all these matches so far. I love the close near falls that we got, the slightly slower pace that we got between these two. I love the offense. And at one stage, it did look like Matt Riddle could possibly come away with a win, but the longest reigning NXT champion in history, Finn Balor, returns to NXT with a win under his belt, and looked great in doing so. So I don't think the loss really did Matt Riddle any harm. He certainly lost to the better wrestler at the end of the day. But I love the hell out of this match. What about yourself?
I had to skim through this one quite quickly because, as discussed earlier, I was running late to the podcast and hadn't watched the show yet. But obviously, I knew that the men's war games was going to be the main talking point, so I had to skip through the 10-second button on the network's really handy.
We've all done it, believe me, we've all done it.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, right decision, really, for Balor to come back and win. I mean, obviously, that makes sense. It's a shame it had to be at the expense of Riddle, because you don't want Riddle losing too much. Riddle is, well, assuming he can stop being hated by the locker room and stop putting his foot in his mouth, he should be a top star. And I really want him to be, because he is incredible. He's one of the most engaging wrestlers I've seen live. Just everything he does in front of you in the ring, you're just gripped by it because he's brilliant. Need to see him again.
But it is another loss, as you alluded to there, for Matt Riddle, and he's had a few on takeovers in the past. And although he's the type of wrestler where losses don't really affect his character, and we still love him regardless of what he does and whether he does lose the odd match. I mean, he probably wins as many as he loses. I mean, his most recent loss that I can remember before this one was against Adam Cole for the NXT Championship on NXT a few weeks back. But to be honest with you, you don't remember him for the losses. You just remember him for his cool moves, his great look, his fantastic character and his great gimmick. But with
swagging down to the ring with his fucking flip-flops.
but with another loss under his belt, Liam, where do you see him go next? I mean, he's obviously not going to be up there as a title contender, but do you see another? I mean, is there another feud kind of in the pipeline for Matt Riddle that you'd be looking forward to see potentially?
I'm not sure where he goes from here specifically, but what I do like is that now NXT is sort of classed as main roster, and are we going to not see promotions as much now where they go up and they're just left to fodder like they did with Killian Dane when he first went up there with Sanity? So I'm hoping, like I said, I don't know where maybe I'd like to see maybe Swerve Scott go with him. Yeah, that could be interesting because that could be quite fast paced, exciting. But again, there's so much depth to the NXT roster, and there's so much quality in the NXT roster. I don't think it entirely matters who he goes with, but you'd sort of know it will be amazing when he does.
Yeah, absolutely. But it'd be nice to see his next feud and getting a few wins under his belt and start potentially looking at Matt Riddle as a future title contender. Yeah, I mean, it'd be great to. I mean, potentially. I mean, I'd like to see him have more of a prolonged feud with Roddy Strong, and I think I could see Matt Riddle as a North American champion. To be honest with you, and that might happen fairly soon.
He's already done that route, hasn't he? He tried against Roddy.
He tried, unsuccessfully. But, I mean, after Survivor Series, we're kind of officially on the road to WrestleMania with TLC, then Royal Rumble around the corner, and then we'll be at WrestleMania before you know it. So kind of thinking ahead to WrestleMania weekend with a big takeover there. And you never know. I mean, obviously, the bigger names will be in the title picture when we come around to April next year. But, I to be honest with you, Matt Riddle might not even be on NXT come then. He might be kind of doing bigger things, possibly on SmackDown or Raw. Not that I want that, because as you said, they tend to go downwards as opposed to his success. And what about Finn Balor then? He's obviously still got this feud lingering over him with Johnny Gargano, of course. Johnny Gargano's temporarily on the shelf, or hopefully it's temporarily with his neck injury. But that's obviously the next big feud that they're obviously got to complete with Finn Balor, of course. Do you possibly see that happening over WrestleMania weekend or sometime soon? What's your kind of thoughts on that one?
I hadn't considered it, and to be honest, even after that heel turn, I still hadn't really registered how tantalising the prospect of Gargano versus Balor actually is.
It's mouthwatering.
Yeah. So, I don't know. How long's Gargano out for? Do you know?
Well, it depends. I don't think he needs surgery. So possibly, just into the new year, we might see him return. So
because if that's a Gargano and Balor takeover Mania feud, that could be a match of the year.
That would be awesome. And I know the next takeover was advertised for February the 16th. So it's a potential for that one. Then, of course, the next one will be WrestleMania weekend. So only kind of one more takeover before.
Oh, of course, because they're not tying takeovers to other pay-per-views. Well, they are in some cases, obviously. Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see. I mean, I was a bit disappointed they're not doing it for over Royal Rumble weekend, because they did one in Phoenix last year. So we shall see what happens instead of TakeOver when it comes to Royal Rumble weekend. But let's have a little look at our main event then. So it's the men's War Games match. Obviously, we had the women's match opening the show earlier on. So this was for the third year running the Undisputed Era. Adam Cole, Bobby Fish, Kyle O'Reilly, and Roderick Strong, of course, going up against Team Ciampa, Tommaso Ciampa, Keith Lee, Dominik Dijakovic, and a mystery fourth person. Now, the fourth person would have been Matt Riddle, of course. I think Matt Riddle was one of the first two to be announced in Team Ciampa, and Dijakovic was going to be that fourth man. But of course, Matt Riddle got moved sideways in his match to face Finn Balor. Of course, we've just spoken about that one. So, the big kind of conjecture and speculation was who was going to be that fourth man. Of course, some of us have seen Raw, where you've got Triple H trying to recruit Kevin Owens, and Willie won't he? But we'll see more about that and whether that happens in a moment. Before this match, we see all the entrances, and the entrance from the greatest faction in all of pro wrestling at the moment, in my opinion, the Undisputed Era, draped in gold, but definitely producing the goods as far as I'm concerned. We then see the entrance of Keith Lee and Dominik Dijakovic, both unbelievably making their TakeOver debuts, with Lee and Dijakovic on the same team following their Feud of the Year series of matches throughout 2019. And they've had a gigantic feud and about 4 or 5 fantastic matches throughout 2019, but now here on the same team making their TakeOver debuts as well. The match starts with Tommaso Ciampa and Roddy Strong, with Ciampa raining down on Strong with a series of punches and running knees. Strong manages to turn a fairy tale ending into a double knee gutbuster on Ciampa. Kyle O'Reilly is next into the match, capitalising on the man advantage in their new kind of green and gold get-up, their new green and gold trunks, which I
wasn't into the trunks.
I thought it was all right. It makes a change from their black and gold. But then we get to Dijakovic in next. He runs to the ring, dropping both Strong and O'Reilly with cyclone kicks, stiff lariats, dumping O'Reilly into his tag partner before launching both Strong and O'Reilly into the side of the cage. Bobby Fish is out next, combining well with O'Reilly with their high-low total elimination finisher, and then a suplex stiff kick combo to their opponents. Keith Lee is out next, and he wastes no time in popping the crowd with a massive leapfrog over 2 men before dropping both Fish and O'Reilly with a massive running crossbody. Always impressive to see a big guy like Keith Lee do what he does in the ring. Then the NXT champion Adam Cole is out next, who goes straight for the tables underneath the ring. So Kaylee Ray disappointed earlier. Adam Cole is not going to disappoint the fans this time round. He put at least 5 tables inside the ring and another one propped up against the guard railings just outside the ring. But before Cole could even enter the ring, he's given a big boot by Ciampa, sending Cole crashing through that table propped up against a railing on the outside. Then there's a massive all-out brawl inside the ring, inside both rings, as a matter of fact, with Keith Lee receiving a low blow for his troubles. Then the clock ticks down to 0 for the final entrant and the final member of Team Ciampa, with a few moments of silence. A lot of people kind of thinking, well, maybe it's nobody, maybe that it's just going to be 4 on 3. And then we get the music. The crowd erupts for Kevin Owens to complete the lineup for Team Ciampa. I sensed a little bit of disappointment in your voice there. Not a fan of Kevin Owens?
No, I love Kevin Owens. It was more of a, this is really good. That pop was insane, wasn't it?
It really was. And I think when they come back to NXT from having wrestled for however long on Raw or SmackDown, they get that extra kind of buzz and extra lift, and a kind of extra sense of freedom as well. And that's certainly what we saw here. We saw a sleeper suplex from Owens. Owens gets a close near fall from a stunner. Roddy Strong is launched into from one ring all the way into the other ring by both Dijakovic. So that was pretty special. And in fact, I think he missed the top rope and went through the middle rope, and that looked like it hurt. No, Keith Lee then scales the cage to deliver a flying crossbody onto all 4 members of UE down below. Dijakovic connects with a springboard moonsault. Owens delivers a swanton bomb. Roddy drops Keith Lee with an Olympic or angle slam from the second turnbuckle for a 2 count. Cole avoids a package pile driver between the 2 rings, allowing him to hit a Panama Sunrise on Kevin Owens onto the metal grate, connecting the 2 rings. Both men were suffering for that one, and you could see the pain etched on Adam Cole's face as he landed hard from his own move.
Did you notice during that Panama Sunrise what Mauro said? He was a line on commentary. He said, like, there is no honor in this ring. And I was like, nice.
but that looked like it hurt. It looked like they regretted doing that one. Ciampa drops O'Reilly with a Project Ciampa before eating a super kick by NXT champion Adam Cole. Cole and Ciampa then battle it out on the top turnbuckle before they ascend to the top of the cage. More about that in a moment. Owens then drives O'Reilly through a table with a frog splash. Keith Lee drops Bobby Fish through another table with a powerbomb. But none of that, however, measured up for what we're about to see as Ciampa and Adam Cole on top of the cage, setting up the NXT champion 12 feet above everybody else, above two tables that are set up down below on the ring for what can only be described as an air raid crash. And an air raid crash it was, with Ciampa getting the pinfall, smashing Adam Cole through both tables, getting the win for his team after 38 minutes of pure brutality. I loved everything about this match. So we saw even a brief glimpse of Adam Cole's wife, Britt Baker, in the audience.
Yeah,
she was even acknowledged on commentary as well by Mauro Ranallo as Adam Cole's other half. But it's a brief glimpse. I don't know if the cameraman still got a job after showing her on screen. Of course, AEW superstar Britt Baker, Dr. Britt Baker, of course, and
she's a dentist. Did you know that?
I didn't know that, as a matter of fact. No.
I've heard quite a bit. I can't remember who told me, but yeah, apparently she's a dentist.
But hell of a match. I was sweating just watching this and popping big time, sitting in my armchair watching this one. I have this down as my match of the night. I don't know about yourself, but I've also mentioned on our Wrestling with John's Facebook community page this morning that potentially this is the best War Games match in history, also including all the classic NWA and WCW War Games matches. This just had it all for me. I thought all 8 competitors completely delivered, and I'd love to know your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, after Owens came in this match and it just went into signature and finisher frenzy, it was amazing. Just like when Owens hitting a swanton and then there's just super kicks flying around. Just it was electrifying, just that entire sequence of minutes, and it carried on throughout the whole match. Like obviously, as more and more people got in, it escalated and escalated and escalated. But even when it was just Roddy and Ciampa at the start, like that's a match you love to see.
Yeah.
Ciampa strong. Fantastic match. I wouldn't be surprised if Meltzer was to give it a full 5 stars.
It would be up there. It would certainly be up there.
Yeah, I think even if not, this is definitely match of the night. No two ways about it.
Yeah.
Closely followed by the women's War Games.
Yeah,
I think the story they told with Rhea Ripley in that, I think that pushes it up there for me. The problem with this one, with the men's one, that last spot, the Project Ciampa from the top, it made me cringe and wince, because I've been watching the Zandig bump quite a bit recently. Have you seen that one? Joey
I haven't. No.
So that was a CZW match, I think, and you know exactly where I'm going. But basically, Zandig has Joey Janela for exactly the same move, basically top of the building onto the back of a pickup truck.
I have seen it.
30-odd feet away.
Yeah, I've
and
seen
there's
it.
light tubes and shit.
Yeah.
And I was like, no. I say I've been watching it a lot recently. I've recently moved into a new place and I've been talking about wrestling with new flatmates, and I've been showing them this because it makes them cringe. It's well funny. Apparently Zandig broke his back on that because he had to go through it like penciled in, like with his feet, and because he couldn't see like where the floor would be. And yeah, oh god. But yeah, no, I mean, incredible spot. I hope Adam Cole's okay, but obviously that leads into Pete Dunne hopefully taking advantage of that and winning the NXT title tonight. That would be beautiful.
Yeah, so I love this match. If Dave Meltzer doesn't give it 5 stars, and I know there's some bias there towards AEW, but I've got my inkling there is a bit of bias there anyway. But yeah, I love this anyway. So I probably sound like a broken record every time I do a takeover review, but every card delivered, every match delivered, and every individual delivered as well. I love the heel turn in the first match from Dakota Kai, and the opening War Games match, I think, delivered. Many people say that that's potentially match of the night as well. So obviously it's great when you've got so many matches, or at least a couple of matches on the same card where people are so high on, and I think, you know, a match of the night or possible, you know, 4.5, 5-star matches, it's great when you can kind of revel in that sort of celebration, to be honest with you. I love the triple threat match between Damien Priest. He looked like a megastar, by the way. I think they've got really big plans for him. He's got a really good look. Killian, Dane and Pete Dunne making this a very memorable number 1 contenders match. And I can't tell you, like we said earlier, how happy I am for Pete Dunne to be in a featured match tonight at Survivor Series. Matt Riddle versus Finn Balor was a masterclass from both, especially from Balor, bringing all of his experience, and Riddle looked strong even in defeat. And then this main event, you know, easily a 5-star match that you can be talking about on your podcast in a few months' time. You know, the big moves, the brutality. It had Kevin Owens, it had Ciampa back to full form, which is great to see. No sign of his kind of neck injury, which he only recovered from in record time. I think he was back within 7 months, and he's been kind of back in the ring now for a few weeks. Keith Lee, I thought Keith Lee was amazing in this match. He got such great reception from the fans. They were chanting and singing his name throughout, and I think that people are really taking notice of Keith Lee backstage, and he's going to be a megastar as well. But he looked fantastic in this match as well. His size, his strength, loved everything about it. But what's your kind of overall take on what you saw TakeOver War Games, that the show as a whole? What's going to be your kind of overriding memories?
Obviously, the Project Ciampa. Well, that's going to be ingrained into my eyelids, and I'm scared.
Same.
Pete Dunne, I want this match to be memorable for me for Pete Dunne, because I really, really want him to win the title tonight. Women's War Games, another monumental moment. Rhea Ripley again, one of my favourite women's wrestlers at the moment. Fantastic to see her getting her due. I really want, if she can take the title off Baszler at some point in the near distant future, and then start up a feud with that would be nice. I mean, takeover average quality is always exceedingly high. So, very good night, or very. And
it's another one of those where we kind of walk away from TakeOver thinking, once again, we've seen the best TakeOver ever. It's like after every single one, we kind of think, the next one is going to top the one we've just seen, and it tends to, but maybe just because it's fresh in our memory banks. But I love this one, and I could watch this over and over again without getting bored. It's one of them wrestling shows that you could watch forever and a day, most definitely. I've got a question for you though, Liam. So we obviously saw kind of a semi-surprise appearance from Kevin Owens, complete in Team Ciampa in the main event War Games match last night. But do you think we'll see Kevin Owens back again in an NXT ring? Do you think, like Finn Balor, he's potentially coming back as a permanent addition or a semi-permanent addition? I know that since the brand split, since the latest draft, they're kind of sticking rigidly to the draft rules now, making them exclusive to their brand. But could we potentially see Kevin Owens more in an NXT ring, and would you like to see him more?
I would love to see Kevin Owens back in NXT regularly, but his T-shirt, he went back to his old school KO T-shirt last night.
He did, yeah.
Now, I can't remember the exact styling of how that Kevin Owens original shirt was, so I don't know whether they've dug that shirt out from the lot or whatever, or whether that's a new shirt, because it had the NXT logo on the back. I saw that and I was like, does that mean he's NXT now? Or is he like still on SmackDown? Or in fact, to be fair, I don't even know what fucking brand Kevin Owens is on anymore.
I'm not sure either. I think he's well, he's on one or the other, but he's in one of the 5-on-5-on-5 teams tonight. Yeah. So he's not actually wrestling for NXT, but we could see some shenanigans there. We could potentially see Kevin Owens siding with the five guys from NXT as opposed to his own team. But be interesting to see. It's kind of a bit of a storyline thread that does link us up very nicely to tonight's pay-per-view.
I'm a little bit concerned for NXT tonight at Survivor Series, if I'm honest, because they've come across on TV awfully well this week, which, as we know, with 50-50 booking, doesn't bode well for them this evening.
No, well, you've got more of the matches being overseen by Mr. McMahon, of course, as opposed to Triple H having tight reins of things at Full Sail and NXT shows. It'll be interesting to see. But, obviously after last night, they can't job all of them out because of how well last night's matches and show as a whole was received. So fingers crossed. At least we know we got one kind of exclusive NXT match, and that's obviously Pete Dunne versus Adam Cole. So they can't be jobbed out to a Raw or a SmackDown superstar, at least we hope not. But you never know in the world of WWE. But there we go. We've got Survivor Series to look forward to tonight. But that pretty much brings us to an end of our NXT TakeOver War Games review then, Liam. So thank you so much for contributing and for helping out with this podcast. I hope you've enjoyed the experience.
Oh, it's been lovely to chat to you, John.
Yeah, no, it's been great to have you on board. It'd be great to have you back on, and likewise, I'll be happy to kind of guest host or contribute on one of your podcasts sometime in the future. If you have random guest hosts.
It's interesting you say that, because I'm slowly putting together the motions for a Christmas episode where I want to have a number of people on, so I can just jump on Skype with you for 10 minutes, and then I just wanted to sort of get like a match of a year type thing. like
Awesome.
people's opinions for match of the year, because while we are like the 3-man booth, as it were, for the podcast itself, we do want to eventually get guests on, but as we are, like I said, monthly, and it's difficult to arrange us three getting the time to do it, I think it would be nice to get that sort of episode out with other people on it, just so, because obviously it's like courtesy, isn't it? I'm coming on to yours, you come over to ours.
Pencil me in, buddy. Yeah. Well up for that.
So I'm scheduling all of that now. Well, in the process of, but I don't know how I'm going to work it. Whether it's like you come on and you say your 3 matches, and then I put it to a vote, or whether us three decide. I don't know what's happening yet. But
it all sounds good fun. But before we say goodbye to you properly, Liam, do you have any kind of plugs, any social media handles you want to throw out there, so the listeners of the Wrestling with John's podcast know where to get hold of you, say hi, get in touch? Where can they find you?
Yeah, so all across the board on all socials, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, at 5 Stars in the Dome. Back to the number 5. I think if you just type in 5 Stars in the Tokyo Dome now to most search engines, we're going to be the top hit. Yeah. Which is quite fortunate, really, given it's quite a popular phrase. So, yeah. So, latest episode, CM Punk versus John Cena. That's available now. There's another 4 episodes up. About episode 6 is going to be in December. That is Kota Ibushi versus Shinsuke Nakamura from Wrestle Kingdom 9. I'm super excited to talk about that. Episode 7, the poll finished the other day, and we had another tie, and I don't know how to decide between Walter and Tyler Bate from TakeOver Cardiff, or what was the other tie? Oh, A-Kid versus Zack Sabre Jr. at White Wolf Wrestling in Portugal or Spain. Can't remember. So I need to figure out which one we're going to do for episode 7 there. But they're 2 amazing matches itself. Zack Sabre Jr., again, what a boy.
Yeah. Well, if it helps you out at all, I was at TakeOver Cardiff, and I'll definitely add my vote towards Tyler Bate Walter match. So if that pushes it over the edge, I'd love to see that one reviewed.
Well, that was International Day of Wrestling 2019, wasn't it?
That crazy,
was all out. I was at Royal Quest that day. So yeah, it was New Japan, All Out, All Elite, and fucking WWE just all putting on an event. What an amazing thing. But yeah, like I said,
right,
at 5 Stars
on the Friday as well.
Yeah,
superb.
Oh, that was the night that Josh Bowden was. Oh, fucking Josh Bowden. Did you see about that?
That's the one.
Yeah,
I did indeed. Yeah,
less said about that.
Not very. Yeah, let's forget that one. But let's not forget what a fantastic show TakeOver WarGames was. In fact, straight after this podcast, I'll probably go and watch it again, to be honest with you. But Liam, thank you very much for coming aboard, and we'd love to have you back on again sometime in the future. But in the meantime, you're very welcome. In the meantime, please keep it tuned to the Wrestling with Jonas podcast for all of your weekly NXT and AEW updates, with regular WWE and AEW pay-per-view reviews and so much more. And if you've enjoyed listening to this podcast, please don't forget to hit subscribe, tell your friends and tell your family, and don't forget to, like I say, hit subscribe so you're notified every time a new episode drops on your favourite podcast platform or YouTube. And there we go. But in the meantime, from myself and from Liam, I hope you enjoy Survivor Series tonight. Catch up with you all again very, very soon. Listen to us on Tuesday when our Survivor Series review will be dropping, and I'll have a special guest host there. It will be the Queen of NE from podcast and Twitter fame. She'll be joining me. We'll be recording that Monday night. That'll be dropping Tuesday morning. But from myself and from Liam, have yourself a great weekend, and thank you very much. Catch up with you all again soon.